Alright, this is where we're headed. This is the Ravioli Roller when I was all done, getting ready to cut it. This is a modified version. The other one, I basically built 4 quadrants where I broke each square into a quadrant. So it machined this piece, and then this piece, and then this piece, and then this piece. So it was 4 quadrants. I changed that model because it took too long to shift and cut. So this is what we're going to create. And if you look at it, it looks, if it was red and green, it would look like a Christmas tree, but it doesn't. Each one of these lines represents your tool path. And if you look at it, it starts here, where the green dot is, and it ends over here. What happens is the tooling then lifts up, moves to this one, and cuts. So it makes it a more efficient cutting path back and forth. If you don't do it this way, what it does is cuts one, lifts up, goes all the way back, cuts the next one, lifts up, goes all the way back, cuts the next one. So that's why I alternated this tooling path. I don't know how this corner is going to turn out. So what I'm going to do is basically make an X to clean this corner out. And I'm going to run that last after this has machined the part if it's needed. So I'll be looking at that corner and see what it looks like. The tool that I'm using, zoom in here so you can see it, is a 1/4 inch bit. So when I use a 1/4 inch bit, let me move over a little bit so you can see our dimensions. These lines are 1.95 inches long, and they're actually 0.125 apart. So I moved them apart equal to half the distance of the cutting tool. So that gives me enough overlap that this will be out nice and smooth in here, especially with the operation of cutting it in both directions. It would be nice if I cut this one last because it's smoother, if I remember right from the first model. But we're not going to play with all that. We're just going to cut it like that. So what I'm going to do is add this X, and that'll show you in some ways how I did the rest of it. If you know how to draw a line, all you do is draw a line from here to here, offset it, and then use your edit tool, object edits, to then change direction, and then do an array where you copy these two and offset it 0.25, which takes this and moves it up here and copies it. And then you make, I don't know, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copies. So your rows are going to be 7 rows. The distance from here to here is 0.25. So it's a 1/4 inch from here to here. That's why I said I'm not sure what's going to happen in this corner. So what I'm going to do is show you how to do a corner that will work in case we need it. So to do that, what I'm going to do is draw a line from here out here. Push my space bar, draw another line from here out here. Push my space bar. And what that's doing is it's giving me a line. Let me get rid of my dimensions first, so they're not in the way. So I'll delete those. See my line right there? Because I'm going to draw a line from here to here. Now, so I can do that again. I'll go back to my line tool, and I'll draw a line here, pick up here someplace, and pass so it's straight, and space bar, here to here, space bar. I'm going to draw a line from this intersection to this intersection, space bar. Now if you look at that line, let's close the line tool. I'm going to need another one over here, from here to here. Well, I should be able to rotate that line First I'll copy it, so I'll select it, do Control C, Control V, so there's a copy. Now if I don't touch this, the only thing that's highlighted is the copy. So I can then take this, rotate that copy around the center, 90 degrees. Copy. So now I have two lines that go from corner to corner. Alright? Now, I'm going to select both lines. And I'm going to take those and array them. Now if you look at what I showed you before, there's 3 rows, yes, 3 rows and 4 columns. And the space between those, between X is 2.6 and Y is 2.5. And that's the ravioli roller that we saw before, and I figured that out. What I did was simply make squares that were reasonably spaced and then offset it for the tool spacing and then plop them in there. So you can calculate all that or change it any way you want, because ravioli sizes go anywhere from 7/8 of an inch all the way up to 3 inches. So I just picked it one in between that would fit on a 2.5 inch roller. So that's how I came to those numbers. Now if I copy this, it's going to group them, and I wanted to group them. So I'm going to say copy, and then I'm going to zoom out so you can see what's happened. See, that's in every one of the ravioli pockets, and that's what I want. So then I'm going to make a tool path, and the tool path is a fluted tool path, just like the other cut. And my start depth is 0. My flute depth is 0.5, and I'm using a 1/4 inch tool. And on the scene, oops, I lost it. Push down. Well, I want it. And if you hit edit, you can actually see the feeds and speeds that I use. My pass depth is 0.125, which is half the distance of the cutter. My step over is 0.125. Which is 50%. And my speed is 80. I think I slowed that down, but keep in mind these two speeds you can actually slow down on your touchpad. You just slide that speed slide down a little bit. I usually start at 50% and go from there. Because keep in mind, the first cut on each one of these is 100%. So it takes a plunge depth and then it cuts at 0.25 all the way across. I wish the software would compensate for that, so that the first cut, whichever one it is, would be 50% speed. That way it takes that huge cut first and then it overlaps and overlaps. But they don't do that. Maybe in the future they will. Let's hope so. Now, let's go back to here. What I'm going to do is do a ramp cut at both ends. So it'll start here, ramp down, and go across. Now the ramp cut that I use, if you look here, is 0.25. But if we zoom into this, the distance from there to here is a little bit longer than 0.25. So what I'm going to do is change that to 0.3. And I could extrapolate this by measuring the distance from there to there. Because I know this distance from here to here is 0.25, and if you look at it, you can see it. We can calculate that. So, but for our presentation, I'm going to use that. And I want a smooth transition. I want it to kind of roll down, because that's the way the dough is going to do it. It's going to roll down in here versus a straight linear ramp. And then we need to give it a name, and I'm going to call it corner cutout. Ravioli. Right? And then we're going to calculate that. And you see it shows just that, which is kind of cool. Aren't those weird looking? And if you look at it, what it's doing, come around here, you can see that it's actually going down 1, 2, 3 passes to get to the depth. That's 4 passes, which makes sense, because it only cuts 0.125 each time, and we're going down to 0.5. So let's take a look at it. We'll preview just that, and it should give us an X cut in there. See it? As I roll this, you see it has to reset each time I roll. So that's the cleanup, corner cleanup that we might install based on how the roller turns out first time. Let's preview all the toolpaths so you can see the roller. It's cutting those, cleans out the corners. There it is. I'll zoom in, click on it, zoom on. And you can see that the corner does look dished out. So if we run just this one and reset it, see what the corner looks like. Okay, see that? That's what I'm trying to get rid of, that straight part right there. So I probably will run it. I'll just run it separately. So if you have any questions, let me know. You've already seen the first video of this cutting. What I'm going to do is do another video of cutting out this one so you can see the difference in the toolpath. And I did that toolpath change to try to save some time. Let's take a look at the estimate here. It says 1.34 hours. The other one took almost 4 hours because it moved up and down, up and down, up and down, and your plunge depth is quite slow. It's at 25. So that slowed it down quite a bit. I see that corner. What I'm going to do now is click on this one and run it and see how it cleans out the corner. See how the corner is cleaned out now? And that was the purpose. If you need me to run through the entire project of building it, leave me a note and let me know, and I will do that for you. I'll create a ABC, I guess, or part 3 of the Ravioli cutter, and actually go through in detail making each individual pockets. But I've given you all the measurements so you can actually do that yourself. And if you have detailed questions on the software applications, there's a lot of excellent videos out there on how to use the software, and you'll find those at Vectrix. But if you have a question that you can't get an answer to, you can actually contact Vectrix, and they will answer it. I run into some issues that I had, and Vectrix is an excellent resource to try to help you learn the software, because it's their tool, and they sell it, and they make a lot of money on it, and it's owned by its employees, which is excellent. The gentleman retired that owned the company and actually sold it to his employees. So it's a good company to support, and they do an excellent job. So again, if you have questions, if you would, please subscribe, because that eventually, if I get enough software subscribers, I'll be able to buy more toys so that I can show you how to use them. Take care and have fun with your CNC.